Corinita with Illexotic, and this is Mental Health Monday. This month is May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Today I'm going to share some random tips and info about supporting those with mental health challenges and a little bit about the mental health community. May has been Mental Health Awareness Month ever since the year 1949. The color for this is lime green, like this one. Go. Ta-da! 1 in 5 people will receive a mental health diagnosis throughout the span of their lifetime. But every one of us has mental health. Sometimes our mental wellness might be difficult and sometimes it's great, but we all are in this together. Something that has really helped with my mental health journey has been peer support. If you've been watching our channel for a while, then you'll know that I am a peer support specialist at my day job and just in life. It's how I try to move about the world as a peer support specialist. Since May is Mental Health Month, I thought I would share my story about peer support and how it's helped me. I've been hearing voices since I was about 10 years old, and I've always struggled a lot in school ever since 4th grade, and I've always felt kind of weird, like I didn't fit in. I never had too many friends. In my preteen, teen years, I was dealing a lot with the voices, and it was really a difficult time for me because they were very antagonizing. They would tell me negative things about myself and to hurt myself and to do weird things that I didn't understand at the time were not good for me. And yeah, but I never really got any support around it. I kind of just dealt with it myself. I spent a long time in college just to get my associate's degree in music. And I'm talking, it took me about 7 or 8 years, which that kind of degree is supposed to take around 2 years, maybe take a little longer for some people. It seems a little excessive. And at my last year at college, I had kind of a breakdown. I went to a mental hospital, and at that time I was walking around. I'd be like, in Target, trying to focus, trying to get what I need, and like be talking out loud with my voices to like, please be quiet, because I was trying to like focus. And everybody that I'm hearing, they all have opinions and wants and their own ideas about what I should be picking up even at Target. Around this time, I was leaving a really difficult relationship in my life as well. I had just started seeing a therapist a little bit before I ended up in a mental hospital, and I was out pretty quickly, honestly. I think I'm pretty lucky for that because I'm not sure that environment would have been very healthy for me, and I did not get along well with my first therapist. I stopped seeing her, and I kind of just kept falling deeper into whatever this was, and it was just at a point where like I felt pretty hopeless. And I really wanted something to change because there's a lot in my life that was changing for the better, and I wanted the inside to reflect the outside. And that was when I found a Hearing Voices group and a Special Messages group. And that's the first time that I experienced formal peer support, which was really cool. It was nice to go to a meeting and people were talking about voices that they were hearing, aliens they were talking to, spiritual warfare, and other sorts of things. And it was like I finally found my people who understood what I was going through. It was through this that I found a training program for becoming a peer support specialist. It was 8 weeks of classes and then 6 months of an internship. And from that, I was able to get a steady job where I am working as a peer support specialist, helping other people navigate their mental wellness and providing support in a way that maybe a therapist or a psychiatrist or a doctor cannot provide, because I've been there. And ever since I discovered peer support services, my life has really changed for the better. If you're struggling with your mental wellness and you're looking for something different than therapy, than psychiatry, someone who's not going to tell you what to do, but rather listen to you and let you kind of guide the way a little more, I definitely highly suggest peer support and peer support groups. And every peer support group is a little different, but if you just keep at it and keep searching, you'll find one that works for you. One life-altering thing that I learned about in my peer support classes was recovery language. I've been diagnosed with a lot of different things, a hodgepodge of grave mental illnesses out of the DSM-5. Ranging from schizophrenia to schizoaffective and all sorts of whatevers. Every time I've received one of these diagnoses, it just sends me into some sort of spiral. Wow, I feel terrible about myself. If you look up the word schizophrenia on Google or in a book or read a book about it, there's literally nothing good that people have to say about it. It's just like what they cannot do. This person won't have meaningful relationships. This person won't be able to hold down a job. This person is delusional. All these things that are not what you want to hear anyone say about you. But using recovery language is how I started to learn about my strengths. When we talk about recovery language, we focus on what's strong instead of what's wrong. This paves the way for people to find strength in what would otherwise be perceived as weakness or shortcoming. It paves the way for people to find their own identity instead of finding themselves caught up in a laundry list of symptoms. This can lead to people finding resolutions and meaning in their experiences, which are not all necessarily bad. When this happens, it alleviates stigma, discrimination, and prevents people from making assumptions that would otherwise be made. For me personally, I found that when I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and I would share it with people, they would immediately look really sad and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." When I tell people that I hear voices, I get a lot of mixed reactions. Some people are kind of excited and think it's cool, and I think that's okay. It gives me space to talk about it. I can talk about things that I've been diagnosed with and how those have affected me, but also talk about my own experience as a person, the whole thing. Not just the things that I see listed in the DSM-5. When we take off the lens of medicine and colonialism, a lot of times we can find that these experiences have deeper meanings. In other cultures, things like hearing voices and seeing visions are not seen as a flaw in brain chemistry, but they're rather seen as some sort of sign or a reflection of the self, something we need to go into internally and figure out what it means. In other cultures, people even take hallucinogenic drugs to induce these sorts of states. So I think that it's important when we think about recovery language, we think about engaging with the whole person, not as a diagnosis and as a person with scary mental illness, but as a person with very real emotions and human experience that just because I don't understand, they do understand, and they can tell me what that is. When I talk about mental health, I tend to lean more into talking about things that would be classified as psychosis or schizophrenia or dissociative identity disorders. That's because this is what I have the most experience in. I hear a lot of people, even celebrities, talk about depression and anxiety, and I think that's great. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's important that people do talk about depression and anxiety, how that looks, and how we as a culture can change to be more accepting and more supportive of everyone in the community. But I personally don't often see people talking about things that would be called psychosis or schizophrenia in a positive light or in an accepting light or as something that a lot of people go through, because a lot of people do go through it. I've been through it. I go through it. I just don't see as much representation around that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about hearing voices and special messages, the groups that I've been to, and what that's all about. Because for me, it's a support group, but it's also a special interest and a hobby, something that I really enjoy and has turned the voices from this scary thing that can hurt me into this really interesting and cultural thing, and something that really has bonded me with a lot of special people in my life who also have been through similar experiences, not only with the hearing voices or special messages, but with interfacing with hospitals and mental health professionals who I find that in general, a lot of psychiatrists and therapists are approaching us in a way that makes sense in a textbook, but it doesn't make sense to me or my other friends who have been through these experiences. In fact, it can be hurtful and traumatizing. What is hearing voices and what is special messages? Hearing voices is oftentimes what people call it when somebody hears things that others just don't. They don't perceive it in the same way. It varies from person to person. And if someone shares this with you, I think it's important to, ask them, like, where do the voices come from? Or what do they sound like? Not only where are you hearing them? Like, is it in your head or outside? But like, where are they from? Are they beings? Are they in your head? Are they angels? Are they aliens? Like, that stuff is all very important and legitimate questions to ask. Special messages is an even wider array of experiences. This can include being watched by the government. This can include seeing aliens, talking to and interfacing with spirits and ghosts, all sorts of things. I just like to say, if you were to tell a psychiatrist and maybe their eyebrow might go up or they might prescribe you some heavier medications, so you've learned not to talk about them to people, those are probably the things that are special messages. I think we all get special messages from time to time or hearing voices, but it kind of exists on a spectrum from, occasionally hearing someone say your voice in the store when nobody said it, all the way to there's ghosts living in your house and they won't let you sleep at night. If you've ever had a loved one who's experiencing these sorts of heightened states, it can be really distressing and you don't know what to do other than to tell them, well, that's not real. Don't worry about it. Stop freaking out. That's not real. It's in your head. These sorts of things are not helpful at all. And they can cause the person who is experiencing these things to shut down or not want to share ever again. And that can prevent someone from getting help or support from a loved one or a group or anything like that. It's important when these things come up that we listen, and listen with the idea in mind that everyone experiences reality on their own terms. If your friend or your loved one or whoever comes to you and tells you about ghosts they're hearing or voices they're hearing or aliens or anything like that, I think the best approach is to just be inquisitive and validate the feelings that they're having. Imagine if this was happening to you. Without the shadow of a doubt, this is real and nobody else is experiencing this. It would be really terrible that you can't tell anyone about it, that you can't talk about it, but every night ghosts are in your house scaring you and you cannot sleep. And instead of helping, people put you in a place that's similar to a jail. It's locked and they make you take medications that you don't want to take. That is not a helpful approach. Instead, we should create safe environments where people can talk about these things, where they're heard. For me personally, when I started talking about the voices and people asked me questions, well, I thought, I never thought about that. Like, people would ask me questions that I hadn't even considered, or even like suggestions like to talk to them or set boundaries with them. And these things really helped. And just having a place to talk about them and understanding that I need some alone time now and then to journal, to talk to my voices, to take care of their needs, helped me to understand that this isn't a bad thing for me. This is a gift I've been given because I'm able to help other people with mental wellness challenges who otherwise may not get the kind of help that they are searching for. And I can help educate others, like all of you watching this video. Something to understand about people who hear voices and special message receivers is that your idea of wellness might have to adapt to them. I have different ideas of what a successful, happy life is for me because of my voices. And that's just the way it is. There's no fighting it. I'm not going to be working a 9-to-5, 40-hour-a-week corporate job. I just cannot do that. But that doesn't mean that I've failed at life or that things are bad. It's just the way it is. It's a little different. And I'm happy because I'm on that right path for me now. So instead of being judgmental, maybe ask them, what does success look like to you? What would make you happy? And if you want to be supportive of that person, help them to find a path for themselves. They can achieve those goals over time. Lastly, I know some of you might be thinking, peer support? What is a peer support specialist? What does peer support look like? I'm really lucky. I live in Alameda County, and peer support is strong and really big around here. To me, peer support looks like a community of people coming together to support each other on their difficult days, using the strengths that they've been given. Those strengths have usually been derived through resiliency, through difficult times, and getting through them. What some people see as crisis or a break or breakdown or whatever you might call it, through peer support, I have learned that I can look at that as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for change. And that growth and change doesn't happen without support and love from others in the community. Everybody has their own story and everybody has their own shortcomings. But that's not what we focus on. We focus on how we can support one another and how we can relate to one another. I have met some of the most amazing people. I'm getting teary-eyed. I've met so many amazing people through peer support. People who have been diagnosed with all sorts of things. People who I'm sure psychiatrists or doctors or whoever have told that they won't have meaningful relationships, that they aren't capable of working, of whatever the DSM or diagnoses say. And the people that I've met are diligent workers, are caring individuals, are people who have been through difficult things and come back stronger and more loving than ever. And that's why I love being a peer, and I love being in the peer support community. Because even when I'm having a difficult day, they're there to support me. Even if I may have a bit of a snippy attitude because I'm not in the best place emotionally, they're understanding. And if I need a day off, they're understanding. And I see peer support as the future of mental health care, because relationships and community is inherent to the human experience, just the same as things like depression and anxiety, sadness, special messages and hearing voices, and all of that is part of the human experience. I hope you've learned more about peer support today. I hope you've learned about recovery language. I hope you've learned about hearing voices and special messages, and how people like me are doing well every day and supporting each other every day. And if you have mental wellness issues, you're another person experiencing life, and you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You are amazing the way you are. So happy May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I will be celebrating by wearing my little thing and providing peer support all month, every month, all year, always, but especially this month. If you like this video, like it, comment. Tell me if you've heard of peer support, or if you are peer support, or any opinions or questions. Subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Love you.